Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أطيعوا الله ورسوله ولا تنازعوا فتفشلوا وتذهب ريحكم. Obey Allah and obey His Messenger, and don't differ amongst you. Munaza is like, don't start fighting amongst you, because you will fail and your wind will go. What does the wind mean here? Quwwa. Sayyidina Umar brought windmills to Medina because wind is power. Now we know the modern people are going towards wind because it's one of the most powerful forces on the planet. And you can derive energy from wind. Allah uses wind as a metaphor for energy. Your power will go if you start fighting amongst yourselves. I'll just give you an example. The Ottomans for centuries, defended the Muslim lands. But then the Muslims turned on the Ottomans. They turned on them. There's reasons for it, and I'm not going to deny the Ottomans were at that time they had lost their way as well. But they started allying with the colonialists who were promising them things, and they went against their brother Muslims. The last attempt at defending Palestine, it'll bring tears to your eyes if you read the Ottoman, what they tried to do to defend Palestine. And we know that Abd al-Hamid would not sell Palestine to pay off all the debts of the Ottomans, because he said, it's not mine to sell. But they were betrayed, and people betrayed them, and now we suffer the consequences of those people's mistakes. Because Allah says, اتَّقُوا فِتْرَةً لَا تُصِيبَنَّ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْكُمْ خَاصَّةً. Beware of calamities that don't just affect the guilty amongst you, they affect the innocent too. So people inherit the sins of people that went before them. In the Quran, Allah says, لَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. No soul bears the sins of another. Some of the ulama say, in dunya they do. There's things your father does that you end up being disgraced by. And people will treat you badly because of the sins of your father. There's people that are born out of wedlock and they suffer from the sin of their father. They did nothing. That ayah is in the akhirah. You're not going to have any of the calamities or the sins of anybody else in akhirah. But in dunya, no. We bear the sins of other people. We bear the sins of other people. We're suffering today from choices people made 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago. We're still suffering. This country is suffering because they didn't resolve the problem of slavery at the very start. It was a problem, they were dealing with it. But they didn't, so they had to have a civil war. We're still dealing with the problems of the Civil War. Today, the Confederate flag. It happened over 150 years ago. We're still dealing with it. Syria is going to be dealing with this civil war for generations. These things don't go away. So we were given guidance. We were given a covenant. When the covenant is abandoned, calamities happen. The Prophet ﷺ, his sunnah is the wisdom of this book. And if you look at our Prophet ﷺ, all you have to ask, the Christians have this thing, would Jesus do it? What would Jesus do? They ask that. We should have the same criteria. Do you think the Prophet ﷺ would tell people to strap bombs on them and go blow up people, innocent people? Is there anything in his sunnah that indicates that would be a methodology that he would use? Because he was in Mecca. He could have had his Sahaba go assassinate people. They were brave. Abu Dharr al-Ghifari was a Ghifari. Really, he was an incredibly brave man. Ibn Mas'ud was incredibly brave. These men were lions in battle. He could have said, go kill secretly, go sneak into so-and-so's house. He didn't do that. Why? Because that's not his methodology. What he does is out in the open. He never did anything by stealth other than to escape because Allah commanded him to do. He didn't do things by stealth. He told people exactly what he was going to do, and he did what he was going to do. He didn't shed blood. We have a cult of death. I was just reading a book the other day, and it was all about just death. Like these people love death more than life, and they quote all these early things. That in war, you want people to have that mentality. That's not the mentality that you want people to just have as human beings. The Prophet said, don't desire death. لا تتمنوا الموت. The only time he asked for death is fitna. He said, وَإِنْ أَرَدْتَ بِعِبَادِكَ وبالناس فتنة فاقبضني إليك غير مفتون. Take me to you out without civil strife. And he said that when Allah wants rahmah, this is a sahih hadith, when Allah wants rahmah for an ummah, He allows the Prophet who gives them the message to live to see them accept the message. But when He wants to punish an ummah, the Prophet who gives them the message sees their destruction in his own life. Subhanallah. And so our ummah, He wanted rahmah for this ummah. Allah wanted rahmah for this ummah. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, لا ترجعوا بعدي كفارا يضرب بعضكم رقاب بعض. Don't go become kuffar after I gave you this. Don't become kuffar. How? By killing one another. The ulama say the kuffar here means don't do the actions of people that don't believe in Allah as a rahmah, because even Sahaba fought. So the wisdom of the Prophet ﷺ is something that we have lost in our community. We've lost it. And it's something that we need to regain. And it's regained with knowledge. Because the Prophet ﷺ, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ مُعَلِّمًا, I was sent to teach. It's regained with humility. Because he was the most humble of men. And he said, أُمِرْتُ أَنْ أَتَوَاضَعَ, I was commanded to be humble. حَتَّى لَا يَفْخَرَ أَحَدٌ عَلَى أَحَدٍ, until no one deems himself superior to any other. Because if the Prophet was humble, then who am I not to be humble? If the best of creation was humble, who am I not to be humble? The Prophet was commanded to be humble. Everything about him was wisdom. Everything he did, the way he ate, the way he sat, the way he walked briskly. He walked with intention. He didn't meander. When he spoke intelligently. He never minced his words. He always spoke beautifully. If he joked with truth. And then he honored people. There's a beautiful hadith. Asma al-Ansariya came to the Prophet ﷺ, and she said, Ya Rasulullah, ana wafidatun nisa. I was sent by the women. So they picked this woman, Asma al-Ansariya, to come and speak to her. And she said, Ya Rasulullah, ba'athaka Allahu ila rijali wa nisa. Allah sent you to the men and the women. فَآمَنَّا بِكَ وَبِإِلَهِكَ. We believed in you and in your God. وَنَرَى أَنَّ اللَّهَ فَضَّلَ الرِّجَالَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ بِالْجَمْعِ وَجَمَاعَاتِ. But we see Allah has given some preference. The men, they get the jama', they get to gather, like Jumu'ah, they get to go to Jumu'ah, they don't have problems, there's no little room in the back, smelly, or hidden with a curtain or something like that. No, they get to go in the big nice masjid, right? وَجَمَاعَاتِ, the women were encouraged to pray in the homes. They can pray in the masjid, but they were encouraged to pray in the home. The men go to the jama'ah, and the jama'ah, the Prophet said, is 27 times better. And then she said, وَبِالْحَجِّ بَعْدَ الْحَجِّ, and hajj after hajj. For the woman, it's mandub, she make the fard one time. And then it's because it's jihadun nisa. And then she said, and then jihad. They get jihad, fi sabilillah. The Prophet ﷺ said, he said, التفت إلى أصحابه بوجهه كله. He looked at his companions with his entire face. And he said, هل سمعتم أحسن مسألة من مسألة هذه امرأة? Have you heard a better question than the question that came from this woman? Like he's pointing out, look at the intelligence of this woman. And the Sahaba, they said, والله ما كنا نظن أن النساء. We didn't think women could come up with things like this. Right? He's teaching them, no. Right? شقائق الرجال. They're your other halves, your better halves. Right? And then he said, Ya imra'a, listen woman. He said, أقرئ السلام إلى النساء خلفك. Give salam to the women that you left, who sent you. And then he said, وافهمي, understand this. حسن تبعلكن يعدل ذلك كله. Just being a good companion equals all of that the men are doing. Just being a good companion equals all of that the men are doing. This amazing hadith. And that's who he was. He was somebody that elevated and honored people. Male, female, slave. You know, he had in his house Zayd ibn Haritha wa Usama bin Zayd. Zayd was very dark and Usama was light-skinned. And some of the people, they said, he's not the real son. Because he was married to a dark woman also. So how is it that he's light-skinned and these two dark people, they had light-skinned boy? So one of the Banu Madraj came to his house. And these people were known for like firasa in genetics. And they came into the room and Zayd and Osama were sleeping, but their feet were outside. And the one set of feet was black and the other was white. And Madraji, he looked at the feet and he said, هذه أقدام من هذه. These feet are from these feet. In other words, this is the father of that. The Prophet called in Aisha, Aisha, سمعتي? Did you hear that? He was so happy. He knew. But just to have that confirmation, he wanted Aisha to hear it, she would spread the news. Right? This is the Prophet always elevating people.